Howdy folks, Brother Jim reporting here at End Times Prophecy News. From Gateway Pundit, update, prison guards turned down plea deal in connection to Jeffrey Epstein's suspicious death. Now, we already know about James O'Keefe activates dead man switch before release of the new footage about a cover-up surrounding the death of Jeffrey Epstein. Dead man switch. We also have David Zublick talking about how Jeffrey Epstein's body they did do a dead man switch, meaning the good people of this country switched his body, and Jeffrey Epstein is alive somewhere else. And because there's a lot of proof and belief that the ears and the nose of this dead man they pulled out of the cell was not Jeffrey Epstein. They showed proof of it. There's actually pictures showing his ear is not the same ear. It's a dead man switch. And that they knew that Hildebeest was going to kill Jeffrey Epstein. So they switched his body and they orchestrated all this, right? Now listen to this one. I'll let you just listen to this report here. This is no conspiracy. What I just told you was sort of part conspiracy theory, right? Part. But authorities are moving quickly in their investigation of Jeffrey Epstein's death. The Manhattan coroner concluded that Epstein killed himself by hanging from a bedsheet about 4 feet off the floor. Are you serious? When he sits on his knees, he was found sitting on his knees, hung, right? Broken neck, broken bones, multiple, obviously that he was strangled to death. But even when he's sitting on his knees, he's 4.5 feet high, and the top of the bed where the noose was hanging from was 5 foot high. 6 inches? Are you serious? How do you make hang yourself from 6 inches? Crazy. But famed pathologist Dr. Michael Baden recently declared Epstein's death a homicide and offered convincing evidence on justice with Judge Janine to support his claims. I just described what he gave you. Now the prison guards working the night of Epstein's death have turned down a plea deal, according to latest reports. Now, if you know anything about plea deals, let me just explain real quickly. When a defendant is accused and indicted, and then they ask for a plea deal, they through their attorney, they contact the prosecutor, the DA, and they say, well, we'd like to take a plea deal for less time in prison, okay? And if the DA, finally succumbs to that plea deal, which is very common in courts, about 85% of courts go through plea deals on crimes, okay? So if that happens, then the DA does a plea deal, and they lower the judgment, not the judgment, but the prosecution, what they're going after, to a lower degree, so that they can go into prison for less time of a sentence, right, and a judgment. So then what happens is the defendant always takes the plea deal if they're guilty, right? Now listen to this one. But if they're not guilty, why would they take it? Why would they even go for a plea deal? They're not going to go for a plea deal, right? So there is no such reason for this. Makes no sense, you see, because the plea deal is coming from the defendants, normally always through the lawyer onto the DA prosecuting, and then they offer it, and then you accept. That's what you do, okay? That's just the normal operating procedure of courts. How is it that any defendant would ignore a plea deal? Well, maybe if the prosecuting attorneys were never asked by the defendants for the plea deal. That's right. Maybe they just offered it right away, just to get them to look like they're guilty. I don't know. I don't know if these prosecutors are wicked or deep state prosecutors. They're from New York, Manhattan. Not New York per se, but Manhattan area. So, federal prosecutors, though, offered a plea deal to two correctional officers responsible for guarding Jeffrey Epstein on the night of his death, but the officers have declined the offer. People familiar with the matter told the Associated Press. And if you click on Donald Reddit here, check this out. This is what I keep telling you over and over again. All these sites are anti-patriot. Now it doesn't happen, but when you normally click on this, it will say, this is a banned and censored site. Do you really want to go there? It's dangerous. There are a bunch of patriots over there. That's what all these sites, these social media sites, are all doing to us. Okay, let's continue. The existence of the plea offer signals the Justice Department is considering a criminal charges in connection with the wealthy financier's death at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York in August. The city's medical examiner ruled Epstein's death a suicide. The guards on Epstein's unit are suspected of failing to check on him every half hour, as required, and of fabricating log entries to show they had. Now, I wish I had the log entries that they actually put out. Then I could give you some more food for thought there. But as part of the proposed plea deal, prosecutors wanted the guards to admit they falsified the prison records. According to the people familiar with the matter, they spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not permitted to publicly discuss the investigation. Just like it's wrong to say the whistleblower's name. But everyone knows it. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan had no comment on the plea offer. It's the same reason why Roger Stone can't say anything. Because it exposes the Dems and the pedophiles in elite areas. Both guards were working overtime because of staffing shortages. They have been placed on administrative leave while the FBI and Justice Department's Inspector General Michael Horowitz investigated the circumstances surrounding Epstein's death. The 66-year-old had been awaiting trial on charges of sexually abusing teenage girls. Epstein was placed on suicide watch after he was found on his cell floor July 23rd with bruises on his neck. Multiple people familiar with operations at the jail have said Epstein was then taken off suicide watch about a week before his death. You see, that's why it's a dead man's switch, meaning he was less closely monitored but still supposed to be checked on every 30 minutes. James O'Keefe activates dead man's switch before release of new footage about a cover-up surrounding the death of Jeffrey Epstein. Dead man's switch. And we already know that there's a lot of proof out there proving that his nose and the ear of this dead man they pulled out of the cell, there was a picture of it, was not Jeffrey Epstein. Believe it or not. So it's very possible what David Zublick is saying, and also James O'Keefe is alluding to, a dead man's switch, that it was not Jeffrey Epstein, and Jeffrey Epstein is still alive, and Jeffrey Epstein and all the evidence on his island, pedophile island, is going to be coming out. I don't know, we'll see here, but things are really heating up. Thank you for listening. A lot of news coming up. Stick with me. Don't turn the channel.